We have made it to our keynote speaker. Mr. Rodney K. Strong is the founder and chairman and CEO of Griffin & Strong. Mr. Strong is currently the project principal for public policy consulting and engagement with several state and local government entities, a member of the State Bar of Georgia. Attorney Strong represents a range of public entity and corporate clients specializing in public contract, community development, and real estate law. Mr. Strong is widely considered one of the most foremost national experts in the area of procurement, disparity research, and supplier diversity program development. His experience in these areas began in 1985 when the mayor, Andrew Young, appointed him as Director of Contract Compliance for the City of Atlanta, a position he held until 1992. He has outstanding achievements. He's also served as a general counsel for the Fulton County City of Atlanta Land Authority and supplier for diversity consultant on numerous projects, including the newly built Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. It is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Rodney Strong.
Thank you, Ms. Rolly Rod, for that great introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to greet you and let you know that it's an honor to be here to speak with you. And I particularly want to acknowledge Bexar County Judge Nelson Wolf, Bexar County Commissioner Tommy Calvert, Sheriff Javier Salazar, Bexar County Tax Assessor Albert Uresti, Bexar County Clerk Lucy Adame Clark, Bexar County Hospital District Vice Chair Ira Smith, Mr. Frank Alvarez, and I just want to especially thank Ms. Renee Watson for inviting me here. This is the second time I've had an opportunity to attend this conference. The first time was 19 years ago at the very first one, and so I'm really happy to be back again. And I'd also like to acknowledge everyone else here at the head table, and I'd also just like to acknowledge any other elected officials or appointed officials who might be here that have not previously been acknowledged. And of course, I want to thank each and every one of you who took the time to come and just hear a few words from me. I want to thank you for taking the time to be here, and I want you to know how honored I am that you would come, and I'm just excited about the opportunity to say a few words to you. I didn't pick my topic today. Ms. Renee Watson gave me a topic: impacting economic inclusion. And you know, a lot of times when you're a business owner, all you really have is hope. My former boss, Andrew Young, titled his autobiography, "A Way Out of No Way." Whether you're the owner of a small minority, women, and veteran-owned business enterprise, or you're a compliance officer advocating for the inclusion of small minority, women, veteran-owned businesses, or you're a supplier diversity official of a large company, you know the challenges faced in the marketplace for small MWBE firms. And the reality of it is that you've made a decision to get out here and put yourself in the arena as a business owner. In 1910, President Theodore Roosevelt, in a speech at the Sorbonne in Paris entitled "Citizenship in a Republic," said something that is apropos of this occasion. He said, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man," and I modify his words to say person hereafter, "who points out how the strong person stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the person who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly and who errs and who comes up short again and again. " Because there is no effort without error or shortcoming. but who actually does strive to do the deeds, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if they fail, at least fail while daring greatly, so that their place will never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. That's you. That's who you are. You took the plunge to get out here in the marketplace. You didn't have to do it, but you did. You didn't have to hire people and face that payroll every 2 weeks, but you did. You didn't have to have your personal finances open to public scrutiny, but you did. You didn't have to climb into the arena, but you did. And so I understand that your presence here as business owners didn't come without cost. You're standing on the shoulders of people who dreamed of you being in the position you're in today. You're standing on the shoulders of people who sacrificed their lives for you to be in the position you're in today. The power you hold was bestowed upon you by the community for the benefit and the uplift of the community. As the Johnson brothers wrote so eloquently many years ago, we have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. A few weeks before he was assassinated, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. told a Memphis audience on May 18th, 1968, "Now, our struggle is for genuine equality," which means economic equality. It isn't enough to integrate lunch counters. What does it profit a man to be able to eat at an integrated lunch counter if he doesn't have enough money to buy a hamburger? At Griffin and Strong, we know that government leaders are in a unique position to implement innovative practices that can transform their communities and drive better economic outcomes for the citizens. In addition to fulfilling the government mandate to promote equal treatment and the benefit of diversifying contractors and opening the procurement process, there are three big benefits. First, when government leaders take that step, it produces a broad community impact that is both common sense and quantifiable. Spreading government spending to contractors from diverse communities yields stronger communities and contributes to the overall growth of the middle class, and by proxy creates a more robust taxpayer base. Second, inequality has a direct impact on business growth. Inclusion in contracting provides stable revenue and helps firms to gain the experience necessary to grow in public contracting, and often supports the growth of businesses that might not otherwise have received an opportunity because they are more likely to hire individuals in the community and develop those communities because those communities have historically been underserved. Third, by creating a barrier-free, well-defined and transparent procurement process, governments benefit through increased competition and higher quality contractors. Equitable contracting as policy, practice, and institutional culture facilitates inclusive community economic growth and helps businesses owned by people of color to thrive and grow. It makes the system more efficient, and it attracts and assists talented new businesses to become potential partners. From the government's perspective, there is much to gain from leading in the area of equitable procurement. Despite the obvious benefits of equitable and inclusive procurement policies, these programs must be very carefully drawn from a legal perspective. I've been involved in the legal issues surrounding these programs since the Supreme Court of the United States ruled in City of Richmond versus J.A. Croson that these programs were subject to strict constitutional scrutiny. It is important to recognize that these programs make sense from a logical standpoint. If you have any concept of the level of de jure racial segregation that existed in southern states and the de facto segregation that still exists in this country, there is definitely a legitimate basis for these programs. Regardless, the Supreme Court in 1989 ruled that these programs had to be justified based on a constitutional standard of strict scrutiny. At the time of the original Croson decision, was decided, I was at the City of Atlanta serving as Director of Contract Compliance. And we responded to the decision by conducting the first major disparity study to provide definitive proof that there was a compelling government interest in remedying inequities in the contracting process. We also conducted extensive public hearings and engaged in anecdotal evidence gathering as required by the court ruling. This court decision, which was occasioned by challenges from various conservative legal foundations and various contractors associations, resulted in a very rigorous process which is needed to ensure that these programs are administered constitutionally. The original Croson decision did not impact the federal DBE program. However, later in 1995, in a case called Adirondack versus Pena, the Supreme Court ruled that federal programs had to meet the same strict scrutiny standard of review that's required of state and local programs. Since 1992, our firm, Griffin & Strong, has conducted studies in over 50 jurisdictions. And we were recently selected to conduct a disparity study for Bexar County. A disparity study is the first step in increasing opportunities for small, minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses in a jurisdiction. Bexar County is to be commended for procuring a disparity study. The information, thank you, give them a big round of applause. The information gathered during the disparity study process will allow Bexar County to develop a more effective program. I encourage all of you to participate in the study. Our firm will be sending surveys to many of you. Please respond to them. Our firm will conduct public meetings. Please attend them. Our firm will contact many of you for interviews. Please agree to be interviewed. Our firm will conduct focus groups. Please agree to participate. Help us make the Bexar County Disparity Study the most complete and accurate disparity study that has ever been conducted for any jurisdiction in the United States of America. Secondarily, these programs must be carefully administered. If you have a good disparity study, that gives you a basis for saying there's a government mandate to do something to increase inclusion in the contracting process. But the second step of that is ensuring that you have a program that is designed to remedy the effects of discrimination that have been found in the marketplace in a very specific, tailored, narrow type of way. And so, in order to run an effective program, there are a number of steps which must be undertaken. Some of the steps raise constitutional concerns, but there are several other steps that are race neutral and can be implemented without any risk of litigation or constitutional challenge. Recently, our firm completed a procurement inclusion guide for cities as project administrator for the City Accelerator, which was funded by Citibank and was administered by Living Cities. Chicago, Los Angeles, Memphis, Charlotte, and Milwaukee were the cities that we worked with. And we helped them develop better procurement inclusion outcomes. At the conclusion of that process, Living Cities asked us to complete a procurement inclusion guide. And recently, they decided to spread those ideas to an additional 10 cities, each of which will receive a $50,000 grant and will have 6 convenings to help teach them the principles outlined in the guide. I want to say that the primary points, and just talk a little bit about the primary points that we go over in the guide. For those of you who are interested in the guide, you can download it at governing.com/City Accelerator. But these are some points that I think it's important to go over, because a lot of times you complete a disparity study and business owners believe that immediately the results should be seen. And I think it's important to just go over very briefly the points that you need to do to have an effective program. The first step is assessment. We believe that any governmental entity must conduct some type of an analysis of the availability of minority firms and women-owned firms and veteran-owned firms and make some determination about the capacity to do work. We'll be doing that as part of the disparity study. The second step is outreach. We believe that it's important to conduct regular outreach so that counties can engage businesses and get them involved in the process of competing for government contracts. That's what we're doing today. That's why this is such a significant event. The third step is to have an effective certification and verification program to ensure that only legitimate minority firms can participate in the program. And the fourth step is to have a procurement process by which the government looks at the opportunities at the subcontract level and ensures that those opportunities are broken out in such a way that small, minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses can participate. And finally, the fifth step is monitoring to ensure that once contracts are awarded, that the actual work is being given to those firms and the firms are actually providing the work. I believe that with effective administration and with active engagement by elected officials, Bexar County can lead the nation in terms of small, minority, and women and veteran-owned business inclusion. And finally, I want to conclude by talking a little bit about my late boss, Maynard Jackson. You know, Maynard had a vision for equitable contracting and inclusion, and he fought hard for it, and he paid a price. During his tenure as mayor of Atlanta, he established the strongest minority and women business program in the country between 1974 and 1982. After I graduated from law school, I moved back to Atlanta and was appointed Director of Contract Compliance by Mayor Andrew Young in 1984. And in 1989, the Croson decision came out, and it completely changed the way MWBE programs were administered. A lot of the things I just talked about weren't really necessary prior to 1989. Many of the legal restrictions weren't in place. And Maynard was elected to a third term in 1990, and this was while Atlanta's first disparity study was still being conducted. And when I briefed the mayor, explained to him the new constitutional requirements, he was outraged. He kept saying, how is it, after everything that has happened, after de jure segregation, after all of the obvious discrimination, that this has to be proven prior to having a program? But we worked with it. I explained to him the constitutional standard that the Supreme Court imposed and their stated rationale. Ultimately, Maynard looked at me and he said, Rodney, all we're asking for is an equal business opportunity. A few months later, we completed the first major disparity study and we presented it publicly. A few months after that, we completed the first draft of our new program, and we entitled it the City of Atlanta Equal Business Opportunity Ordinance. We presented it to Mayor Jackson and he said, "This looks like good work, but I'm really intrigued by the title you came up with for this legislation. I am struck that the title really captures the essence of what we're trying to do here." I said, "Mr. Mayor, you suggested the title when we met with you about this. You said several times, all we're asking for is an equal business opportunity. And so based on that, we decided to title this ordinance the Equal Business Opportunity Ordinance." He looked at me and my team and he said, "I knew it was a brilliant name." Today, the sacrifice of Maynard Jackson and Andrew Young and countless others whose names are not well known has really paid off for Atlanta. Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, which Maynard refused to build for 9 months in the late 1970s until he reached an agreement with the majority business community that 25% of contracts would go to minority businesses, is now the busiest airport in the world. Hartsfield-Jackson is the economic engine for the state of Georgia, generating billions of dollars in economic activity. And last year, over 35% of the dollars spent at Hartsfield-Jackson went to minority and women-owned businesses. The Atlanta region today is almost 7 times larger than it was when Maynard Jackson was elected mayor in 1974. Not only that, but Atlanta's reputation as an inclusive city has brought in talented people of color from all over the world, seeking opportunity. The largest community of technology entrepreneurs of color in the United States are in Atlanta. The Atlanta film and music industries, led by people of color, has turned Atlanta into the second largest producer of films in the country. Tyler Perry Studios, geographically the largest film studio in the country, is owned by a black man located on a former Confederate Army base in a historically black community in Atlanta. I like to say that Maynard Jackson created a virtuous cycle. Opportunity beget growth, and growth beget opportunity. Maynard passed away on a Monday morning. He had hosted a dinner party at his house on Sunday night, and he got up early on Monday morning and flew to Washington, D.C. for a meeting at the Democratic National Committee. He was chairman of the Minority Participation Commission for the Democratic National Committee. As he was walking down a corridor at National Airport, he had a massive heart attack and passed away. Many have sacrificed for those who are in the room. And I leave you with something that I heard Maynard say many, many times when he spoke to minority and women business owners. Never, 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 ever give up the fight. I really applaud the work that has been done by Bexar County. This is an exciting event, and I am confident that much good will come from the effort that is being put forth. And I look forward to the great results we will see from each of you in the future. Thank you.